I'm so bad at this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of We Care a Normal Amount About Things. This is your host, GJ, and this is our episode about the classic rom com While You Were Sleeping, which I posted on our Twitter account recently a poll about what my next episode was going to be, and I wanted it to be something simple. I wanted it to be something that I already knew a lot about slash have already ranted about on social media or my family or whatever. And it was down to two options. Why the movie While You Were Sleeping is actually a lot better than you think it is. Even if you love this movie, it's still better than what you think it is. And the second option was depression hits, of songs that are secretly about depression, but it makes you want to dance anyway. While You Were Sleeping actually won in a bit of a landslide. I think it was 80, it won with 80%. Depression Bops episode is coming, so look out for that. And before we get further, let me just give a quick shout out to our Patreon sponsors. Mammoth Island, when you're here, you're family, or else. Krakenstein's Craptorium, you need crap? We got crap. Dunfall Industries, Myth Breeze Emporium of Lost Socks, Transmissions from Smeagol, Chicken Boo's Costume Emporium, Little Cat's Living Doll Hospital, and viewers like you. Thank you. So, we are going to be talking about spoilers for the movie While You Were Sleeping, and yes, I realize that this movie is 29 years old, and therefore it's old enough to have a meltdown about the goals that it wanted to accomplish, and it hasn't before the age of 30, and it only has a year left. But I actually have like one friend of mine who I know has not seen this movie yet, and I desperately still want her to see this movie. So I know that there are still like people out there, not just in the world, but perhaps even in my own inner circle, who have yet to see this movie. So, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about this movie in a very in depth way. If you've clicked on this without seeing this movie, weird choice, but hey, I'm not your dad. I'll be talking in detail about the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then after that I will give you like the spoiler alert for when we start talking about like the in-depth deep cut stuff of this movie. So if you just want to roll with until I get to that point, that's cool. But first, some facts. While You Were Sleeping came out April 21st, 1995. The movie was directed by John Turteltaub and was written by Daniel G. Sullivan and Frederick LeBeau. Neither one of those men really have that many credits to their names, and so it's kind of interesting how they made this movie, and it's probably one of my favorite rom-com of all time. Like, if we're going to talk about rom-coms, I will be its advocate, and I will be the person when we're arguing about, like, When Harry Met Sally, or Shop Around the Corner, or Sleepless in Seattle. I will be that person, like, standing on the table screaming about While You Were Sleeping. um, the movie stars Sandra Bullock as our protagonist, Lucy Moderates. After Sandra Bullock, we also have Bill Pullman, who plays Jack, the brother of the person who we all thought would be our protagonist, love interest, but isn't. And then we have the fantastic Peter Gallagher as Peter, the red herring slash plot device. He's definitely kind of like a Maltese Falcon type of deal, in that the movie, he sets the movie going, and he is kind of an object of desire, but not really. We'll get further into it. Something that I wanted to talk about is going to be the first 15 minutes. As a writer and as someone who loves movies, the character work that writers do to keep you drawn into the story, and that short amount of time, especially now with how our attention is so fractured after the pandemic and with social media and instant gratification, you have to work so hard not only to get your audience in the door, but to also keep your audience there. There's movies that do a great job of doing it, just like immediately snatch you up. My first thought is Knives Out by Ryan Johnson, where the movie starts and it's a foggy morning and you have the violins and you see the dogs running in slow motion. It's such an atmospheric shot. It shows you the subject of the story, but not really. Another great example of movies that just kind of start off, just hitting the ground running with world building is 2021's The Batman, Barbara Streisand's The Mirror Has Two Faces, Christopher Columbus's The Stepmom. Something that drops you into the world and tries to get you comfortable in it, or tries to get you just immersed into the story. While You Were Sleeping does not do that. The first shot of While You Were Sleeping is, the credits, and then it's a montage of, Chicago is the traditional, hey, you're in this city, here's some landmarks, and here's some people enjoying themselves type of thing, but it's set to Natalie Cole's This Will Be. Oh God, that song is just so good. It's so romantic and uplifting. It gets you into the mood, even though it's also juxtaposed with Chicago in winter. So everything is very cold and very, blue looking. But Natalie Cole is singing This Will Be. And you believe it. This love is gonna last forever. This is great. And then it launches us to Lucy's voiceover. And I love it because of the fact that it's also like kind of trite, because it's this little girl and her father standing on a bridge, and the world is so nostalgia soaked, orangey warmth, almost sepia color. And she even makes a joke about it. I didn't imagine my childhood would be this orange. Lucy's monologue about her childhood gives us such a great idea of her childhood and her humor, and the fact of Lucy is has always been this romantic, and the kind of the tragedy of how now she is alone. She doesn't say it, but it has this undercurrent of a loss that you might not know yet, but you feel that it's there. It fades and it cuts to her in her booth. She works in the Chicago Transit Authority. She collects like the tokens for people to ride the trains. And you don't even see her. The first thing you see is Peter. And he's rushing through and he gives her the coins, but he's in this same like sun glowy light and framing of this romantic nostalgia. And she's talking about how she sees him between 8 o'clock and 8:15 every weekday, and how she knows that this guy is important to her life, and one day she's going to talk to him. It's going to be magical. And you feel it in the music. It doesn't swell, but there's this very hopeful melody in the back as you finally see Lucy, and you feel it. And then it immediately smash cuts to her trying to carry her Christmas tree to her second floor window of her apartment. And it's very cold. She's she's struggling with this, right? I'm not going to talk about this movie beat for beat. I swear. I just want to talk to you about like that's the first 5 minutes of the movie, and it's already giving you the tone. This is romantic. Lucy is feeling the loss of something. She is currently alone. All right, here we go. Also see her at her job, and she's talking to her boss, and he's trying to scam her into working Christmas Day. She's annoyed at it, and he keeps trying to wheel and deal this. And he mentions that like, oh well, I promised my kids I would spend the holidays with them. This person is out sick, and this person has a new baby, and you're the only one. And he trails off, and Lucy finishes the sentence of, I'm the only one who doesn't have a family. And she already worked that past Thanksgiving. It sucks, but she accepts it. Fast forward, Lucy is working in the booth Christmas Day. First thing we see as Lucy is working Christmas Day is like this family of four happy, and they're walking down the platform to their train, because we haven't emphasized enough how this woman doesn't have a family. And Peter Gallagher's character walks up, looks at her, and goes, Merry Christmas, and walks off before she can even say anything, and it's so embarrassing. She looks up again, and he's being harassed by some guys who are trying to like mug him, and he falls off the platform. So Lucy runs, she saves him, she runs to go save him. He's passed out, like he opens his eyes for like a brief second, and he passes out. and he's still unconscious when they take him to the hospital. She goes to the hospital to see him, and the doctor won't let her see him because of fact it's the ER, and the doors close. She looks at Peter's unconscious body, and she says wistfully, "Oh, I was gonna marry him." And a nearby nurse hears her, and she talks to a nearby cop about it, and the cop is like, "Yeah, that's the woman who saves him." And the nurse is like, "Oh my god, not only is this his fiance, she saved his life? No, this is too romantic, I can't even." And sneaks Lucy in to see him 2 seconds before Peter's actual family just swarms in screaming and worried and everything. Before Lucy can explain why she is there, the nurse says she saved his life and she's his fiance. And that is how the hijinks of the whole movie is set up, right? That is the first 15 minutes of the movie. Depending on how you do the math, like if you count the credits and the Natalie Cole, that is the first 10% of the movie. 10%, we know this tone, we know its protagonist, we understand the conflict that is going on right now, because that's kind of an awkward thing to like navigate through, right? It's so good, and Sandra Bullock is just so down to earth and so, I don't want to say ordinary, but she's so down to earth and so human. We're kind of in this journey with Lucy. Like, we're not fully as locked in to it, but we're on this journey with Lucy. And if you can honestly turn off this movie at that point, you know what? Good for you. If you weren't feeling this movie during this, for this whole like 15 minutes, then you weren't going to enjoy the movie. Because that's a good sampling of what's about to come, baby. Now, that's the first 15 minutes. We're about to go into spoiler zone, and we're about to go into even more navel gazing with the writing, alright? So, part 2, the but then and therefore rule. The creators of South Park, Troy Parker and Matt Stone, have a rule. Stick with me. I know this sounds ridiculous. You heard South Park and you're rolling your eyes. I understand. Just roll with me. But they had a rule in their writer's room that when they did an episode and they were playing out the plot beats, they couldn't just go, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. They had a rule that in between each plot point, the words, but then, or the words, so therefore, had to fit into each plot beat so that it feels like a natural evolution. And it has to feel like the characters aren't just being dragged around in the story, they're actually trying to like move forward with it. The YouTuber Patrick Willems does a great breakdown of a movie chase scene and how this rule really helps heighten the action and the storytelling, because the fact that it's not just a movie where it's paint by numbers. Our characters making active choices and trying to keep on their feet as well as they can. This movie is a great example of how to use that rule of, for example, Lucy is the only one without a family at her job. So therefore, she was there on Christmas morning. They went and let Lucy visit Peter in the hospital, but then a nurse misunderstands Lucy and thinks that Lucy is legitimately Peter's fiance. So therefore, she lets Lucy into the hospital room. But then his family shows up and a doctor tries to kick Lucy out of the room, but then the nurse says, "Oh, she's Peter's fiance." But then when Lucy tries to correct her, she finds out about Peter's grandmother's heart condition and that she has had heart attacks. So therefore, she feels uncomfortable with. This movie does this so many times. There are so many ways this rule works out in this movie. It's fantastic. But not only does this movie follow those rules, the movie also kind of flips the chessboard about every 15 minutes. I documented it. It's not exactly 15 minutes, but it's pretty dang close, okay? First 15 minutes. Lucy is quote unquote Peter's fiance. 30 minutes in, we meet Ashley and Jack. 45 minutes in, Jack and Lucy start actually talking to each other and start kind of like flirting and feeling each other, and it's adorable. 60 minutes. Peter wakes up. About 70 minutes into the movie, that's when Peter and Saul have their conversation about how Peter is a schmuck and how Lucy could be this potentially great thing in Peter's life, which leads Peter to propose. And then the last table flip is the wedding and everything that happens at the wedding. It's enough time for Lucy and Jack to, kind of jostle them up a little bit and let them find their sea legs, only to pull the rug from underneath them and the whole cycle starts again. It's very gentle, but it's still enough where they still have to pick themselves up and keep moving. The movie also does that so that it does a lot of planting and payoff for bigger moments, right? So a great example of that, and it still keeps to the but then so therefore rule. Lucy goes to visit Peter while he's still in his coma, and she rambles and she monologues to him, and she says her full name, Lucy Eleanor Moderates. Later on in the movie, Peter's ex-girlfriend shows up at the hospital and starts yelling at him, and he says, "Oh, I'm engaged to Lucy." And she goes, "Lucy who?" And he goes, "I don't know." And then 2 minutes later, he's actually leaves and he sees Lucy and he does this fantastic monologue about empty his life has been and how shallow his life is. And he is feeling it. And he looks at her with those baby blue eyes, full of sincerity, and goes, "Lucy Eleanor Moderates." And it's so great. It's so great. There's been like a whole hour in between her saying her name, her full name, and him saying it. Her full name only pops up 2 times in this movie, and those are those 2 scenes. And it could come out of nowhere, but like the second or third time you watch it, you catch, oh, that's when she said her full name, and the doctor did say people in comas can hear you. And it's so good, and I love this movie. That whole rant, I actually skipped ahead to my third part about the movie fates. So let's go ahead and start talking about the movie fate. It's part 3. The movie fates and character work. The last rewatch of this movie I made a joke about the movie fate. The thought I had in my head was the fates in the Greek mythology. You know, how they determine when someone's born, what their life will be, and then when they die. And maybe I'm confusing like the fates or the Furies, but I just have it in my head of just like these old wise higher powers in rom-com world that just kind of sets up every plot convenience and every ridiculous setup that happens in each rom-com so that our OTP gets together. That's the reason why all these rom-coms have these ridiculous setups, and it has like these people who are supposedly working a crap dead-end job, but they have these really fantastic and really expensive apartments. It's not the world breaking, it's the rom-com fates. The rom-com fates wants them to be a secretary at a dead-end job and have an apartment that's cost like $5,000 a month. It's fine. It's the fates. They see everything. Another movie in which you can see the rom-com fates at work is When Harry Met Sally. Not just in Harry and Sally's love story or their best friend's love story, but in all the interviews with all the couples that we see like intermittently throughout the movie. And the reason why I I am mentioning the fates now with While You're Sleeping is because the actual romantic lead of this movie doesn't show up until 30 minutes in. This movie is only like an hour 40 minutes, right? I can't think of another movie where the actual like love interest shows up a third into the movie. We hear the family like mention Jack when they all storm into the hospital room. They mention, oh, Jack should have been here. Jack would know what to do. They mention him a few times, but it's not like very extensively. And then 30 minutes into the movie, he shows up, played fantastically by the very dreamy Bill Pullman. And so this movie has an hour to set up his character and convince us that him and Lucy should be together. When we spent 30 minutes with Lucy, we're officially locked in with Lucy and with this whole thing. The movie has already kind of set up Peter as the potential love interest. Like, yeah, he's in a coma, but I don't care. But it works because Bill Pullman is once again so down to earth and so boy next door. He's very like the neighbor who you have a crush on. You're trying to show your friend a good picture of him that you took on the low, and they're not convinced as to why this guy has you falling over yourself. And you're like, shut up, this isn't a good enough picture. And he's so good. I have it in my notes. He's pulling off like some Cary Grant, Paul Newman levels of flirty and smoldering. He smolders so much in this movie, and it's not in an annoying way. It's just like a, oh my god, are you flirting with me type of way. We always talk about the scene on New Year's Eve where he's talking about leaning and how leaning is all about wanting and receiving and trying to show somebody that you're on the same page as them, and he's leaning towards Lucy. But I would like to give a shout out to the scene where they're outside of Peter's apartment and Lucy sees the rocking chair that he built, and they're talking about Callahan and Sons, and he just starts like kind of squatting down next to her. I swear, it sounds ridiculous as I describe it, but my homies out there who know, you know, like go watch. It's the smoldering, and it's the leaning, and it's the eye contact, and the husky tone. Bill Pullman is putting in that work, and it works so well. The rom-com fates made it like, listen, did they push Peter off of a platform, which led to him falling into a coma for a week? Yes, but it was very important for these two people to get together and to meet, because there was literally no other way for Lucy and Jack to meet each other. I thought about it. Like, I was looking at that scene of them talking, and I'm like, oh my god, this was worth pushing Peter off of the platform. There was no other way for Lucy and Jack to actually meet each other, because she works at a public transit office, right? He works in the estate business where he buys people's furnitures. He wasn't going to take the train. Where were they supposed to meet? Where? How? Whomst? And Lucy only goes 5 places during this entire movie. I know, because of the fact that I listed it out. Places where Lucy goes in the whole movie, okay? She goes to work, and the hot dog stand that is presumably outside of her job, right? Or outside of the offices, right? She goes to the hospital. She goes to her apartment. She goes to Peter's apartment. She goes to the Callahan's house, and she goes to the party. That is 7 places. I should not be able to count how many places our protagonist goes in a movie, right? Lucy doesn't go anywhere. And Jack has not only Callahan's and Sons, he also has his side hustle of building furniture. Where were they supposed to meet? Okay? The sacrifice. Get Lucy and Jack to meet each other. Was Peter. And pushing Peter off of that platform. That was a lot of P's. I apologize. But that was the tiniest bit of sacrifice that they had to do to get this ball rolling, okay? And I thank them for it, because somehow Lucy and Jack fell in love with each other in like 6 days. 6 days. And you feel it. It's not like some of these movies where they tell us, like, oh yeah, these people are in love, and you don't feel it and you don't see it. No. Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman have such great chemistry in this movie. They have like the first date conversations about your family and where you're from and this. But they also have deeper conversations to the point where on New Year's Eve, when they have their argument about whether or not Peter could actually make Lucy happy and whether or not Lucy seems like Peter's type, and Lucy goes off on him about the fact that he hasn't told his family of his dream about building furniture. It doesn't feel like it came out of nowhere, and it doesn't feel like, oh, when did you guys have this conversation? It feels real and it feels legitimate. And like I said, this movie does so much with planting and payoff. Another good example of the rom-com fates trying to have their way. That sounded dirty. The rom-com fates doing their work and pushing our OTP together is when Jack is walking Lucy home. They've walked from Peter's really rich neighborhood to Lucy's apartment building, and they get to the courtyard. They're walking across a particularly icy area, right? The moment one of them mentions Peter, that's when they start sliding. That's when they start sliding, which forces them to like kind of grab onto each other, and they're sliding, giggling, and it's beautiful. Just the rom-com fates. They're so good at their work. They also worked during this movie to protect Lucy. Not to say that Lucy escapes from this movie unscathed, because oof, she goes through it. But they set things up so that when he initially meets her, and he is incredibly skeptical about whether or not Lucy is actually Peter's fiance, she very much doesn't seem like Peter's type. But he starts asking her all of these questions, and the rom com fates just provide answers and escapes for her for a good 15 minutes straight. Like, she's at the hospital. And yes, I'm about to break these 15 minutes down beat for beat. I don't care. Lucy is at the hospital. Our nurse gives her a crate full of Peter's, the items that were physically on Peter the day that he was at the hospital. And he calls her his wife. And this is like halfway through the movie, and Lucy is frustrated and she goes, "I'm not his wife." And the nurse goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, his fiance." And he hands it to her. At that moment, a guy who works at Peter's law firm hears her and goes, "Oh, you must be Peter's fiance." And he talks her up, and he's like, "I just wanted to show up and, give our support after the accident last month." And she's frustrated and she looks at him and goes, "The accident?" And she says it in a way that the guy feels is passive aggressive, and he just launches into a thing of what he thinks I did it on purpose. And oh my god, it was one mistake. I'm a lawyer. I keep a pen in my pocket. Okay, the doors to the elevator closes like mid rant, so we don't hear what is happening. Right? It cuts to Lucy in her apartment. She goes through the box of stuff and she sees a can of cat and immediately clicks in her head, "Oh my god, there must be a cat in Peter's apartment." And she goes to his apartment to feed the cat. This movie works so hard to prove that Lucy is a good moment that they literally put in a save the cat moment. It's so good. So she goes to Peter's apartment to feed the cat. She has no idea what the cat's called. She's just, pss, pss, pss sounds. They're calling for the cat. And then 2 minutes after that, Jack comes into the apartment. She accidentally hits him in the face. She reaches in Peter's freezer to give Jack some ice. She sees the carton of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. She says that she's there to feed the cat, and Jack goes, "Peter doesn't have a cat." And then the rom-com fates just drop this entire cat on the countertop. And she goes, "Oh, hi, kitty. Hi." And she picks the cat up and she starts petting it. And the cat has on a name tag. And she goes, "Hi, Fluffy." Right after that, phone rings. You remember answering machines? Lucy says she's going to let the answering machine take it. And Jack decides to pick it up anyway. And it's the hospital calling for her, asking if she will want to donate blood. Her and Jack go down to the hospital. They give blood. Jack passes out, as one does. And they get into Peter's hospital room where the entire family is. And he starts quizzing her things about Peter. Who's his favorite Three Stooges? Curly. That doesn't count. Curly's everybody's favorite. What's Peter's favorite ice cream? Baskin Robbins. And Peter's grandmother is there and she's getting, kind of upset about it. And because of the fact that Jack is accusing her of not being Peter's fiance, and she says to everybody, if Lucy wanted to prove that the two of them are together, she would do it. And they all look at her, and the rom-com fates have already gifted her with the answer that she needs. Peter only has one testicle. The story that the law associate tells Lucy is they were playing basketball. Peter was apparently aggressive, and an accident with the pen occurred. It was only a month ago. Lucy has told Jack that her and Peter have been together for like 3 months. So the injury was a month ago. That is perfectly within the realm of the time that her and Peter will have been together, and something that she would know. Because how would she not know about this injury, this great injury that her fiance had a month ago? Why is it that Peter's family didn't know about the injury. One, it was a month ago, and two, Peter's mom has already said that they had lost touch. So it makes sense. And with that, Lucy is cemented as being the real deal. She is surely Peter's fiance. Jack, lower your guard, let her into your family, let her into your heart. Why? Because the rom-com fates are on her side. It's so good. And they still kind of batter Lucy a little bit with, Peter waking up and Peter deciding that he's going to propose to Lucy. But so the sacrifice went a little, astray. It happens to the best of us. It's fine. It's fine. The final part to this whole rant that I wanted to mention is about like why this movie is so much better than you think it is. This movie is an hour and 40 minutes long. The cast is about 10 people, and yet somehow I feel like I know all of these characters. And I don't know if it's because of the writing, the directing, or if the locations people or the wardrobe people just did their job really well, or if it's the actors who did such a phenomenal job. Because I feel like I know all of these characters. And by the way, this cast is so good. Peter Boyle as Jack and Peter's dad. We have Glynis Johns as Grandma. We have Jack Warden as Saul. Peter Gallagher, Sandra Bullock, Mr. President Bill Pullman. Like, they are all doing such a phenomenal job in this movie at all times. And I just feel like I know them. Like, I feel like you can ask me any random question about this character, whether it relates to the movie or not, and I can answer you. Matter of fact, I have a short list of headcanon that I have. One, Saul possibly has a kid, maybe a daughter. I doubt it. But if Saul and his wife had kids, they only had the one, and they moved away ages ago. Two, Joe Jr. was 10,000% an anti vaxxer in 2020, but then his dad got sick and may or may not have died. And so, like, now he's a big advocate for everybody getting their vaccines so that you can keep your mom and pop around for longer than you can. Um, that said, he absolutely did vote for Trump in 2016 and possibly 2020. Peter Peter eventually did settle down. I have this whole sequel written in my head that Peter got back involved with his family and like picked up his little sister Mary up from like school or from her job, and he saw her talking with her mentor, and she absolutely thinks that Peter is a schmuck, pays him no mind, and he just immediately locks in and goes, never before has a woman treated me thusly, and that's who he marries. And yes, she is a blonde. There's also an alternate universe somewhere where Lucy and Peter did go through with the wedding. They both tried to make it work out as well as they could. It was fine, but Peter, being the schmuck that he is, did eventually cheat on Lucy, very probably with Ashley. Lucy found out and she ran off with Jack into like a new city, or they stayed, in Chicago, but just like somewhere in the suburbs, and nobody talked to each other, and everybody felt guilty because of the great betrayal that they did to the other person until like Midge or Mary makes them talk to each other and everything gets cleared up. And that was like a funny joke at family dinner. It's fine. And last but not least of headcanons, Peter is a White Sox fan. It is incredibly important to me that you know that I mean that in a derogatory way. But yeah, these are some of the headcanons that I have for this movie. But because of the fact that we know these characters so well, I think that's part of the reason why we are locked in with Lucy on this ridiculous journey. It doesn't feel like, oh my god, girl, you only know them for 9 days. It's not that deep. It absolutely is. During the wedding, when Lucy is confessing to everybody that she lied and why she lied, the woman who plays Peter's mom, Nicole Mercutio, and the actress Glynis Johns have this look on their face It's gut wrenching. He looks like if you told them, "Hey, I need you to move over so I can get through." It looks like they would just immediately collapse right then and there. It's so good, and it makes you believe in this whole ridiculous storyline and this whole ridiculous facade. And while we're talking about this, I don't think I have it in another place where I could have talked about this, but Peter Gallagher is only has like 30 minutes of screen time where he is actually like awake, and this movie decides like, hey, let's do another rom-com in which Peter is the protagonist. And baby, you cannot tell Peter Callahan that he is not the protagonist in his own story. I feel like he makes just as many choices that Jack and Lucy make in a third of the time. And he just keeps dropping these bars of like, he talks to Lucy and he tells her like, you remind me of someone. It's probably you. When he's proposing to Lucy, he says, it took a coma to wake me up. Bars! Bars! This man is the protagonist of his own story. And it's fascinating to see that juxtaposed to Lucy and Jack, who they are supporting characters in their own stories. Because Jack is still like waffling between the family business and the carpentry, and he only makes a choice about that during the last 15 minutes of the movie. Lucy is in this dead end job because of the fact that she feels stuck. But the only reason why Lucy is stuck is because of the fact that she can't move forward. And it's not until after the wedding where Lucy makes this huge life change. Right? Peter Callahan wakes up from a coma. Boom. Let me talk to this girl. I could see myself happy with her. I'ma propose. And I'm gonna make this incredibly sincere and romantic. Peter nearly gets married. I'm not even sure if he really does believe that he is in love with Lucy. I don't know if he actually even buys the whole story that he has amnesia, but he still makes that choice. 30 minutes. It's wild. The man reproposes to Lucy, and he's just the embodiment of F it, let's do it. And compared to Lucy and Jack, it's just fascinating to see. And then last but not least, this movie doesn't have a montage in it. It has the first montage during the opening credits, and then a little bit during Lucy's voiceover about her family life. There is not one montage of this movie. There is no time jump of like, oh, this happens and an indeterminate amount of time passes. Now it's resolved. There's implied growth. There's implied maturity. There's no, this happens in like 10 days. There's no telling what the time jump is between the failed wedding and Jack showing up and proposing to Lucy. But you could honestly tell me that it happened a week later and I believe you. It could have been a week, it could have been a month, who knows? Same thing with Lucy and Jack's wedding. I just know that it was probably in spring because the lighting is warmer, just like the beginning of the movie. Aha. So, like, it could be May. It could not. It could have just been a freak sunny day in Chicago. Who knows? Just this movie does so much in 100 minutes. It's so tightly written. I don't think there's any scene in this movie that just goes to waste. It's so good, you guys. The fact that it's not on more people's MVP of romantic comedies, it's kind of shameful. Like I looked up list of best rom-coms just to goof off, and Vanity Fair has a list of 42, and it wasn't on there. Coming to America is somehow on the list. Something's Gotta Give is on the list, but not While You Were Sleeping. And I'm mad. I have really got to figure out a better way to wind this up. So that is it for why While You're Sleeping is secretly a better movie than you think it is. Even if you think this movie is great, it's still better than what you think it is. Once again, a shout out to our patrons, Dunfell Industries, Myth Breeze Emporium of Lost Socks, Transmissions from Smeagol, Chicken Boo's Costume Emporium, Lil Cat's Living Doll Hospital, Crackstein's Craptorium, You Need Crap, We Got Crap, and Mammoth Island. When you're here, you're family, or else. If you would like to sponsor us, feel free to join our Patreon. We're going to start giving you some cool perks. We're talking about merch right now, but we're also going to start leaving snippets of bloopers of our recordings of things that didn't make it in the podcast. We also give you sneak peeks and glimpses of our scripts slash outlines to get you all hyped. And yeah, it's fun. Like, subscribe, become a patron, or don't. We're not your dad. Stay safe, everybody. And bye.